5-0 is about right, isn't it?
Yeah, as Ali said, it could have been 7, and it was only one team. It was a lesson. It was a lesson of football. I feel a little bit for Inter Milan fans, players, and everything, because you come to the final, you want it to be memorable, and you want to leave some memories and prides and everything, and you have nothing. I mean, that's a shame. That's a shame for them, but because of the talent of Paris Saint-Germain, and there is nothing else to do but cry at the end of the game for those players and those fans. Paris Saint-Germain were too strong. They did what they had to do. And I'm so happy for players like Marquinhos, for example. He was the only one left since they lost the first Champions League final. But what a game. And when you see doué, I just want to say to the audience, doué in French means gifted.
Nice.
So
yeah,
it says a lot.
Apt.
And for the young
Is that nominal
Mayalou,
determinism?
yeah, exactly.
Where you're named after, your name suits you.
Oh, wow.
Like if you were a butcher, for example,
yeah,
my name would be,
it would be perfect.
Anyway,
yeah, well done. But you have to be happy for Mayalou, of course. Born in 2006. What an experience, and it makes you growing up very quickly. But they did everything they had to do. I mean, in the conservation of the ball, the positioning of the ball, the counter-attack, everything was perfect. Even at 4-0, Donnarumma made a save.
Yep.
Everybody was spot on. There is nothing to complain about.
It's interesting, Ali. As a neutral, maybe you want a tight, exciting affair, maybe like we saw into Barcelona in the semi-final. But still, despite a fan who wants to see that, you can only admire the quality that PSG put on in this show.
It was the definition of a backside whooping.
Yeah.
And I mean a whooping by PSG. They were better in every facet of the game from very early on. There were a few sequences in the first 5 to 10 minutes in which I thought, Inter are in trouble here. The dominance of the ball by PSG through the midfield, and the many times in which Vitinha was allowed to step on the ball, turn one way, step on the ball, go the other way, step on the ball, go this way, step on the ball, go that way, and be able to then complete passes out of pressure and still maintain possession and still be creating opportunities. Inter were never close enough to PSG to impact the way that PSG were going to play. And if you allow Vitinha and Fabian Ruiz and Neves time and space to create, to pass the ball, to have possession with a purpose. And then you have the isolation and mismatches in wide areas with Doué, with Dembele, with Kvaratskhelia. Inter were never going to be able to keep up. They were sort of kind of hanging on, okay, we're going to be defensive, we're going to be behind the ball. But even behind the ball, they were allowing time and space. And it's something that we discussed yesterday in previewing this match. Do not think of Inter coming into this match as Inter of years past, that they were so very solid defensively. They have not been that at all this season, and they have not been that at all in this competition. Remember all the goals allowed against Barcelona. Remember the chances allowed against Bayern Munich. And PSG exposed all of that. All of that. In every single facet of the game, in every single space on the field, PSG were significantly better than Inter. What a performance.
In that manner, I'm sorry, if I can emphasize the work of somebody like Vitinha. Everybody's going to remember who scored the goal, who made the assist. Vitinha made one, gave a Super Bowl to Doué before he made the assist. But the work he does, we used to call those players
Warriors?
Water carrier.
Oh, okay.
And because they were working in the shadow of the stars and everything, getting the ball back, giving it to the stars, Didier Deschamps was the perfect example of that, doing exactly what he had to do. Vitinha has all the tools you need to become one of the best players in the world in that positioning, where he knows technically what he has to do. Physically, he's strong. He never gives up, gets back, get the ball back, and serves the forwards. He was the best player for me on the field today. Right. But of course, he's not going to get the player of the game because people score goals like Doué, and you want to see that. But remember, if you want to play in that position, if you're a young player, to watch what Vitinha was capable of doing in the Champions League final.
Robert, where did Luis Enrique get this so right?
Well, as PSG have done for most of the season since they started to play very well, it was the rotation in midfield, because Inter, what they do, they play zonal marking, zonal defending. So the three midfield players stay in position and they shuffle across the field. But because PSG kept on rotating their positions and finding no space down the side of Çalhanoğlu, and when they tried to get tight, they played around the pressure. It was so easy for PSG to play. They got everything right. And then when, again, Inter had to come out that little bit more in the second half and try and press the ball, then they put their wing-backs high up the field, and then PSG got it into the front players with more quality. And then the front players went past their markers so easy. There was so much space to play. They were dominant in every facet of the game. And when they were put under pressure, and Frank will know about this, the two centre-halves dropped 30 yards back and said, OK, if you're going to put us under pressure, we'll go back to the centre-halves and we'll start again. So Inter, whatever they did was the wrong thing. When they tried to press the ball, they got played around and it went into the front players. When they dropped deeper, they got played around then. So Inter were very, very poor. But you have to say, PSG got everything right. Their finishing, their movement, their speed on the counter-attack when they needed to, their passing, their one-touch, absolutely brilliant.
Very early on, and again, I go back to the sequences of Vitinha stepping on the ball. There were other things to see from Inter that were concerning right away. So they're sitting back, and they're absorbing a lot of pressure. PSG happened to lose the ball, or they shoot the ball wide, or whatever the case may be. Now is an opportunity for you to release some pressure if you're Inter. They decide to, you know what? PSG is all over us, so what we're going to do is we're going to try to play the ball short. We complete a couple of passes, and then because we cannot withstand this pressure, we then turn the ball over and give the ball right back to PSG in an attacking position. And so it's one of the things that we highlighted of Inter coming into this match that could be problematic for PSG is experience, know-how. They have been here before. They know what this feels like. It did not show at all whatsoever in their performance and the lack of understanding what the game needed at certain moments. Very early on, if you're under pressure, stop messing with the ball around here. Why turn the ball over here and you're inviting more and more pressure, more and more problems? It was surprising to see how Inter was unable to process information, to know that the game called for something else. And then the guys that were supposed to be a strength for Inter in the midfield, guys that you think that when they get on the ball, Inter becomes far more dangerous because now you can spring the counter-attacker opportunity with Marcos Thuram and Lautaro Martinez. You needed to get Barella involved. You needed to get Çalhanoğlu involved. You needed to get Mkhitaryan involved. And I'm only going to mention Mkhitaryan this one time because that's the one time that he participated in the game. You never even saw that this player was on the field. Çalhanoğlu, nowhere to be seen. So no possession through the midfield, turning the ball coming out of the back, no hold-up play up front, and PSG is all over you. What do you think is going to happen? You're going to get destroyed, and they did.
Talk to me about Doué, Frank. Where's he come from?
He's come from Paris. He played for Rennes a couple of years, and he's still a very young player.
Yeah.
I like on top of all his talent is the way he wanted to learn and been discreet enough to work hard, and he's a great player.
Robert, how much has it helped Luis Enrique that overall, you mentioned some of the veteran players, but overall this is quite a young squad, not impressionable, but obviously ones that will maybe listen more than some of the older players?
Yeah, and I'm going to just quickly go back to something you were saying. When we talked about the superstars, Ronaldo and Messi, let me say, when they were young players, when Barcelona won the Champions League at Wembley and they beat Manchester United on the previous occasion, Messi would run around. He could not do it when Pep Guardiola was the manager. He had to press the ball. He had to win it back. So he did that. Ronaldo did it at Manchester United. It was only when they became superstars and goal scorers, out-and-out goal scorers, they all went, oh, well, but he doesn't have to work anymore. He doesn't have to track back, doesn't have to close the ball down. And it all came about today. And Ali was talking about the fact that Inter couldn't get out. Who was the first player to make it predictable where Inter were going to play? It was Dembele. He sprinted towards Sommer on time and time again and made Sommer play to Bastoni. Bastoni had to play it to Di Marco, but it told the rest of the players, this is where the ball's going to go. We can go and close it down. We're going to win it back. So it all started with the work rate. And I'm not talking about tracking back. I'm talking about going and closing the ball down. Be intelligent when you're closing down. And that's exactly what Dembele did today.
Right then, let's focus on Inter, Robbo. Where did it go wrong? What was the biggest mistake they made?
Well, I said it over the last week or so. You can't press the ball if you play with 5 at the back, 3 in central midfield and 2 up front, because PSG were always going to have a ball out to the wide areas. They could get Mendes going forward. They could get Hakimi going forward. They had to, in midfield, if they were going to go and press, they had to get tight to people. They couldn't go at half pace and get played around like they did. And they couldn't just be couldn't just stay in their shape. They had to, at times, come out and go and mark people rather than just holding their shape, because PSG had complete control of the ball and their rotation played into the spaces where the Inter players weren't, and it was far too easy. So they needed to get at least one of their wing-backs much higher up the field so they could go and press the ball. They didn't get it into their front players, and Ali just said it again, and I've just said one of the reasons why they didn't do it. But they had to play forward much, much quicker. There was once in the first half, after about 10 minutes, when they went down the left-hand side and they played a ball down the side for Thuram. He held it up. It went to Martins. They went out wide. Dumfries got across into the box. That's what they're good at doing when they play at their best. They didn't get the ball into the front areas with enough quality early enough to cause the two centre-halves of PSG a problem. So they got it all wrong, despite how good PSG were. Inter got everything wrong in the game.
A couple of compliments that I suppose I have to give. Yesterday, Ali, I thought you made a good point.
Oh, thank
when
you.
we showed the starting 11 that lost against Manchester City. You were like, that team is much better than this team going into this final. And Frank, you highlighted the fact that this isn't the same Inter Milan that we're normally used to seeing. And obviously you went for a big PSG victory as well. Did we get a little hung up on that performance against Barcelona or the manner of the victory, and a little hung up on the name on the shirt, as opposed to analysing what this team is really like?
I think we went too far away, going to the history of the club,
Right.
and also the fact that what they did before that Barcelona game, where made them, and I was part of them, part of those people who thought that they were solid. I thought they were solid. And when I said that yesterday, when I saw the two games against Barcelona, I discovered that it wasn't the case, in fact, and they were too open. And you were asking the question to Robo, what went wrong? They tried to compete against Paris Saint-Germain, where they don't have the same talents.
And they're old.
And the older, be nice, the olders, and they should have played, long ball, like old football, and be squeezed together and maybe try to press a little bit higher, but we're not trying to play the ball from the back, because it doesn't work against Paris Saint-Germain, and they've been punished because of that. And be solid at the back, just to wait for the right time and the right moment for an Italian team like they used to play. And they tried to play football. They've been, I have to say, I'm sorry, they've been murdered by Paris Saint-Germain today.
Yep. And Ali will say, well, actually, this could have happened against Bayern Munich.
It's been the point that I've been trying to make all along.
I was listening.
Thank you. That's right. Thank you. Somebody was. Is that Inter have had a tremendous amount of luck to get to this point. Look, I'll take you back. You just mentioned Bayern Munich. I'll take you back. A chance, 100% chance, that falls to whom in Bayern Munich? Harry Kane. Harry Kane. And he misses a sitter. And you think about the matches against Barcelona and how outplayed they were and how lifeless they were in that second half, in which guys like Marcos Thuram and Lautaro Martinez were dragging their feet. They were dead. And somehow they came back. And credit to them. But there was an element of good fortune that at some point was going to run out, and it was going to be exposed by outstanding individual and group performances. This is what we saw from PSG today. And to the point that Robo was making in terms of how Inter go about defending, or they could have gone about defending PSG. Look, if you're going to play with a back three, and really PSG has the one striker, Dembele, that sometimes even drops off, then you have extra players in the back line. So why not Bastoni step into the middle? Why not Acerbi step into the middle every once in a while? Why not Benjamin Pavard to help out the three guys in the midfield that in their best day, right now, cannot keep up with the passing game of PSG? So you think about Çalhanoğlu. It's not what he does, going and trying to close the ball down. Mkhitaryan, same thing. Barella, he has a little bit more fight about him. But if you're going to influence the play of PSG through the midfield, you needed to get help. And these center backs are sitting in behind the midfield three, and they're just kind of like, oh, we're just going to sit here, we got it all covered. No, if you're free and you have a chance to step into a passing lane and make it more difficult for PSG, it should have been something that Inter was willing to do, and yet they seem afraid to do.
They should have cut off the communication between Vitinha and the rest. Put the player on Vitinha,
right,
to make sure that that target is cancelled from the possibilities of Paris Saint-Germain. They didn't do that. In the contrary, we didn't see Barella, we didn't see Lautaro Martinez. They've been cut off for the rest of the team, and that's the thing. That's where you have to work on, and the coach didn't do that. You get people who provide the others, and you cancel those players. Maybe you have a chance to win.
Robbo, you take a look at Inter. There was talks of obviously a quadruple at one stage this season, and everything over the last couple of months has just fallen apart for them.
It certainly has. It certainly did in Serie A when their chances to go and win games, they didn't perform. At times they've looked a tired team in these last few weeks. They've had a lot of injuries as well, and players have been playing that I don't think were fully fit. As I said today, I think there was 4 or 5 players out there that weren't fully fit, and that's one of the reasons they didn't want to go and close the ball down, because they were anxious about the game. And going back to Ali's point, brilliant point that he made, when they played Man City 2 years ago, and they made it difficult for Man City in the Champions League final, those players, Bastoni, and I'm not sure who played on the right-hand side of the back three, came out and helped their midfield players out, and they made it difficult for Man City that night. Today, I would say Inter were frightened of the game. Too many players were frightened of the athleticism of PSG and were frightened they were going to get played around, so they just stood in positions and hoped for the best, and it cost them dear.
Say the second leg of the Inter-Barcelona game was the final. Mm-hmm. Say this obviously was the final. Which losing team would you prefer to be on? Which hurts more? The manner in which Barcelona lost, of course, with that late dramatic win for Inter, or being completely outplayed for the 90 minutes today?
The final.
Really?
For me
today?
Yeah. What do you think? For me, the final. I mean, you.
And he's saying that both of them would have been fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the manner of a defeat. Would you prefer to lose like this, where you're not looking back and going, oh, if only we did that, or if only we did this, where it's just one mistake, or to be in a situation where you were beaten by a better team?
For me, even if you lose at 94th minute a game and you can have regrets, you can get some pride out of it.
Oh, okay.
Today, for me, they were nowhere near it. It's a shame. You will never watch the game anymore, and you don't want to hear about it anymore. That's the thing. And you belong to the history of the record of the team who lost the most. Mm-hmm. That's a shame, where you should be proud of getting into the Champions League. So few people have the chance to do that. I never had a Champions League final, and I was envious to Inter Milan players to have that. But to lose that way, I prefer to be here with you guys, that's, for me, that's shameful.
What about you, Ali?
Oh, I would rather get my backside handed to me.
Oh, really? You're the opposite?
Look, if I'm an Inter player right now, there is no doubt in my mind that team that we played against is better than us. We may have made it closer. We could have perhaps made it closer. But on the whole, that team is better than we are. And I have no issues accepting that. I would have far more issues if indeed it was close, and if it came down to one play here, one play there, one decision here, one refereeing decision there. I would be thinking about that for the rest of my life. This one, I would turn the page rather quickly, because let me just say, 5-0 is as definitive as it gets.
Robbo, you have the deciding vote.
Yeah, I'm going to go against Ali on this one. If you were a Barcelona player in that game against Inter and you came off the field, most of the players probably had an 8 out of 10. Not the defenders, but most of the midfield players and the attacking players were 8 out of 10. They enjoyed the game. They played brilliantly. They didn't enjoy the result, and they're frustrated. These Inter players, when people talk about the Champions League final of 2025, oh, you played in that, and not one of them can hold their head up and say, I played okay today. Not one of them, because they were outplayed. It's an embarrassment almost.
Is it Ali's day today? Because he's not with me or for me, he's against Ali on that matter, and you had 2 compliments from the guy, from Dan, and
from the guy,
from the guys,
yes,
from Dan and from Robo. So it's all about you. Is that your birthday?
Are you jealous?
I'm a little bit envious.
Okay. All right.
Jealous.
You need a hug or something?
No. You say that he's against you, while you could have said I'm for Frank. Whatever.
Frank.
Okay, that's too late.
The only problem, Frank, is I can't understand you.
Well, yeah, that's it. Yeah, join the club. Let's go back to PSG and what this means. You look at the list: Carlo Ancelotti, Laurent Blanc, Unai Emery, Thomas Tuchel, Mauricio Pochettino. What has Luis Enrique done that the others didn't to get this across the line, Robbo?
Well, he's earlier on in the season, I thought he was going to have the same problems he had when he was the Spain manager. Lots of passing, but going nowhere. But what he's done, he's decided that I've got to have more athleticism in the front areas. I've got to get front players that are going past people. He's got to take a lot of credit for changing the way he's played the game, because when he was manager, I saw him at Roma, too much passing at times. When he was manager of Barcelona, when they won the Champions League, they were a good side and they had plenty of pace going forward. But in recent times, although he's been a decent manager, he's been criticised for too much passing, not enough penetration. What he's done since that game against Man City in the second half there, when they got back from being 2-0 down, he's changed the way they play, the philosophy. We've got to be more penetrative. We've got to play more balls forward. We've got to go past people with the ball, not just about keeping the ball. So he's got to take a lot of credit for changing his philosophy as well.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a poison chalice, hasn't it, for managers in the past, as we mentioned. Of course, you've got to deal with Messi, Neymar and Mbappe, but still, you've got to take your hat off as to what Enrique has done over the last 6 months.
Yeah, but you need to digest the past. And this one maybe happened to the rest of the players with Luis Enrique to get rid of the past and get to a new Paris Saint-Germain. But I know what the board did. Who knew Paris Saint-Germain in 2010? They weren't there. We weren't talking about them in Europe. We were talking about League One, okay, but didn't know the Paris Saint-Germain. So what did Qatar? They bought big players, big-time players. We saw Pastore before the game, giving with Zanetti putting the cap. Then after you had Thiago Silva, you had Ibrahimovic, all those big players who came, and of course Neymar, Messi, Mbappe, to make sure that you knew who was or what was Paris Saint-Germain at the time. And now is the time to win. And now is the time to build something we can be competitive.
Yeah,
and
so that question is, does that now set a precedent for PSG? We talk about the youth of this side, a lot of exciting youngsters there.
Hopefully, but it's like Barcelona. It's a complete copy of what we see with Barcelona. Barcelona, they have young players, and it's encouraging to see what you can achieve with them. And you have to build with that and with those players, and for kind of a decade. And to see Paris Saint-Germain, Barcelona being at the top of the top in Europe should also indicate to the others the way to be successful.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't happen in cup competitions. Best team won, didn't they, overall?
Absolutely did. And let me just address Luis Enrique for a second there. One, there's no doubt as to who is making the decisions in terms of personnel and players to be chosen to be on the field, and decisions that have to do with PSG on the field. Obviously and clearly, without any doubt, it's Luis Enrique. There isn't a question of the manager's making a decision, but the players are going above the manager to go and talk to the bosses, right? None of that.
There's no Neymar behavior.
No Neymar, no Mbappe, none of that. And so we know who the boss is and who the decision maker is, and that's Luis Enrique. In the evolution of Luis Enrique, and I think that's important, it's something that Stewie alluded to. You think back to Spain, 2022 World Cup, and how they went out to Morocco. And that Spain team was sideways and back and sideways and back. And we go this way and we go that way and we go this way and we go that way. And there was never there penetrating passes. They weren't even looking for it. Luis Enrique was the manager of that team. So there had to be some soul searching for Luis Enrique. This may have been the way that I was brought up in the game. This may be the way that perhaps my teams have been comfortable. But to Stewie's point, when they won with Barcelona Champions League, there was this as well. And he has implemented that with PSG. But in order to implement that with PSG, you have to have the players ahead of the ball that are willing to make their runs. And so while it's great to have Vitinha, and absolutely you're correct about his performance today, not only is it great to have Vitinha because he's a guy that keeps the momentum of the game and keeps the rhythm of the game, but he's also willing to find that through pass. And that through pass has runners in front of it. That's why PSG becomes so difficult to defend against.
Like Ali's through pass.
Yeah, but the Doué pass, the pass to Doué, sorry, was exactly what it is. You know, cut the lines, you know, and create spaces for the players who just need to either score or pass to assist Hakimi. That was perfection, and it's what I love as well. Vertical.
A full house, of course, in Munich, and they got to witness history once again, which they've done quite a lot in the past, in fact, when it comes to first-time winners of this competition. Chelsea did it in 2012, Dortmund 97, Marseille, Frank.
Marseille 93, yeah.
And Nottingham Forest in 1979, first-time winners in Munich.